swing is, how do I change my path? That's easily the most common question I get. And typically most of the time it's, how do I stop from coming over the top, hitting a slice? Now, what's becoming more and more popular, though, I've seen is a trend, is that we're actually seeing, better players or people that are more knowledgeable about the swing, where we actually have an issue where the swing is a little bit too, that's just as much of a problem as going over the top, because you're going to have some issues with hooking the ball, blocking the ball, things like that. So, and sometimes I actually think this can be a little bit tougher to fix, because you feel like you're going back towards that over the top motion, and we know that that's something we worked out of, and it can be tough to get away from. So, show a case here of how we've used pressure, a path that is too inside out, and we then use the pressure to help take that path down and make it a little bit more manageable. So this player, good player, high school player, she's played in the state tournament. When she gets into pressure situations, she tends to miss the ball left. And when we analyze it and look at it on radar, we see that the path gets pretty significantly out to the right. She's a right-handed player. The video's a mirror here, so ignore that. It looks lefty. So it's out to the right, and it can be out there as much as 8 to 12 degrees with a 8-iron, which is very significant. Now, what that means is she's going to have to rely a lot on face rotation with her hands to be able to square up the club and get that ball to start on line. So what we're looking at is her pressure trace, and I see this a lot with players that are trying to improve, and they're on the right track, but they just never quite get where they are trying to go. So we're looking at this swing. Now, what we're looking at is, obviously, this is the pressure mat here, the video of the swing, just to help us find some reference points. And then we're seeing on these graphs, you're seeing the lateral COP velocity, so the rate that it's shifting right and left. And then the orange line's heel and toe. And what we see here is there's not a whole lot of heel and toe movement in this swing. It's very lateral. To the point where you'll see on the map here, as she's coming down into the ball, you can see this trace goes from a little bit into the heel, not much, mainly on her right toe, but it gets into her left toe, and you'll start seeing that she actually just starts working up her to generate power, where she gets on her toes. You can see the right foot's disappeared, which means it's off the mat. Left foot on the tippy toe, you can see by the total area touching the. And what that means is she's jumping up off the mat. She routes the club under late to help hit a draw, so she doesn't hit a over the top slice. Now, she's somebody that came from that background, over the top, left path, very, very weak fade or slice. So she's done a good job of changing that, but however, it's a little excessive now. How do we change that? Well, we started saying, okay, we could start working on some of the traditional ways to swing a little bit more left. But the fear is, without fixing the root problem, is she'll just go back to either hitting it over the top swing, or she won't make any change at all. So what we did was we actually gave her a little drill here, had her working on just feeling the idea of putting force into the ground the way we wanted to. So you can see here, we're actually working without a club. And what she's doing is, at this moment, she is working on shifting into the lead foot, but then using that lead foot to jump backwards towards the wall. So you'll see she gets into the lead foot, but nothing else happens. That's because she's actually leaving the mat on purpose, but she's leaving the mat in the direction we want to see happen, so back towards the wall. So that's a very good thing, to start, a good way to start feeling, all right, hey, we've got to get the pressure to move backwards, okay? So with that, how did that affect the trace after she did that a little bit? And then she did a couple of practice swings. So this is after the jump now. And we start looking at these, and you can start seeing the trace looks a lot different throughout the swing, okay? You can see it does get back into the right foot, but you can see it really starts to work its way a lot earlier. Now, what happens when we start pushing towards the left heel? We started actually seeing, we did some measurements on 3D as well. We started seeing a little bit more hip turn. We started seeing the club path on radar start moving a little bit more left. She is now, after doing this for 3 weeks, she's down to where she hits an 8-iron with a club path of anywhere from 1 to, she can still get up to 4 degrees out to the right, inside out, but she's typically right around 1 to 2. And she hits it much straighter, a lot less curve on the ball. So that's kind of the effect that we see. So, and you can see here on the graphs, our orange heel toe line, we're actually starting to see some peak and valley as we go through as well, where we're starting to move into our heel. So we can start to affect path by how shift happens in the swing and how you're moving around. And why I like this and why it's so important is, you know, this is a root cause. This is something that whole picture together. You know, we want the club to move in a certain direction. That's the whole point of this, you know, to make the ball do what we want, to shoot lower scores. And we have created an element. We have an element that wasn't fitting that model. So we're able to fix it. And we were able to fix it pretty quick. You can see this is same session. This was, you know, 4 or 5 jump motions, and then swings after. All right, where she was getting this. All right, and you can see it's a little bit more repeatable. We'll pull up another swing. You can see just very, very similar looking motion. Just stuff like that you want to start looking at is, how do you have the overall picture of your swing? How's everything making sense? All of these elements, and that's what we're learning more and more through golf instruction, and something that you want to start paying attention to as well as you go through the swing. It's super important how you interact with the ground to swing this golf club. So if you want to give it a thought, you can. Be careful, because this is for, again, this one's for people that swing it too inside out, you know, hitting hooks, hitting blocks. If you're somebody that's over the top slicing it, this might not be for you. Just a heads up, just a FYI. And we can do one on that at a later date. So I will do that next time, as we'll work on an over the top pattern and what that does. All right. So yeah, so hopefully this helps you out. Good luck with it. And thanks for watching.